Mississippi. Now available on Amazon Alexa devices.
And now, it's Coast Vue with Ricky Mathews. Brought to you by J. Allen Toyota and AGJ Systems and Networks on SuperTalk 103.1 FM.
Welcome to Coast Vue, the show that every single day celebrates the men and women who are making coastal Mississippi such a great place to live, work, and play. And we also celebrate Mississippi for that matter. In fact, with just a second, we're going to be going over to our guest for the first part of the show today, Mike McCormick, who's the president of the Mississippi Farm Bureau Federation. We'll come back to Mike here in just a second. I wanted to share something with you, something that's been passed around social media apparently, and my wife Ann sent it to me this morning because I think it's something to share. I think it really says something very important. But anyway, as you know, the Southern Miss football team played Alabama over the weekend. The outcome obviously was not that good. But a guy by the name, as a reporter for WVTM 13, his name is Rick Carl, posted this. And I'll ask Kyle to show you what it's referring to. But essentially, this is what he said. It was a gesture that went unnoticed by many after Bama slammed Southern Miss over the weekend 63-14. But it was a gesture that I think is worthy to pass along to you. It was a long, painful night last Saturday for the Southern Miss Golden Eagles, but before leaving Tuscaloosa, Coach Will Hall's equipment crew not only cleaned the visitors' locker room inside Bryant-Denny Stadium, but they left it spotless. Dirt, sweat, tape, wristbands, braces, water bottles, trash, all cleaned up and disposed of by the Southern Miss football team. The USM folks have always lived by the motto, leave it better than you found it. And they certainly stepped up last Saturday night. Even after being beaten and bruised, the equipment folks from Hattiesburg were kind and courteous. That deserves attention. That deserves applause. Well done, Southern Miss. Well done. What a great message. And look at, for the Facebook and YouTube audience and the SuperTalk TV audience, you can see literally it's spotless. Man, as the new host of SuperTalk Outdoors, the whole notion of leaving it better than you found it is true in the outdoors. It's true whether you're doing business or work in the community, whether it's, just leaving a legacy in your family. What a great thing to live by. But anyway, without any further ado, let's move over to my guest today, Mike McCormick, somebody I've actually been looking forward to spending some time with. He's the president of the Mississippi Farm Bureau Federation. We're going to learn more about the Farm Bureau Federation. We're going to learn that they actually had National Farm and Safety Week last week. We'll talk a little bit about that. But just in general, I want to get to know Mike better. So good morning, Mike. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, and I appreciate you putting that good piece out on Southern Miss. I'm actually a graduate of there. You don't think of a farmer being from Southern Miss, but my dad thought it was important for me to have a business degree, and they had a great business program there. So I spent 3.5 years there, fond memories, and proud alumnus of Southern Miss.
And so am I. And my wife Ann is from Southern Miss, and 2 of my kids are from Southern Miss. And one son had to get off the reservation. We went as a guest of Dave Dennis to Auburn once to go to a football game, and Dave, sung the praises of Auburn. My son Justin was really young at the time, but made a goal at that moment to go to Auburn. So he went to Auburn, and we enjoyed sort of being an Auburn family. And he works in New York City for Price Waterhouse now, but had a great experience there. But the rest of us are to the top, 100%. That's where we are in our family. Mike, tell me more about yourself. Where are you from? You talked about being a farmer. I know that was in your past. You're very passionate about that. What you guys do to help farmers and people in that community on so many different levels is really important. Tell me where you come from.
I grew up and have lived all my life in a little place called Union Church, Mississippi. It's in Jefferson County, one of the more rural areas of the state of Mississippi, which is a pretty rural state. But that's home to me. My family moved there, Ricky, in 1820, settled there, came from North Carolina with 22 other sets of Macs, McCormicks, McCarns, McHale's. They were all Scott-Irish immigrants, and came there and looking for some place to farm, to grow cotton and have some water there, and good place to raise a family, and started the community. And we've been there ever since. So my roots run deep in the Mississippi soil. My dad, after World War II, came back and started cleaning up some land right on the banks of the Mississippi River, below the old ghost town of Rodney, Mississippi. If you've ever heard of Rodney, it's where they have the cannonball in the church. It's pretty unique history for our part of the world. Jefferson and Adams County were the first two counties in the state of Mississippi. So some of the earlier settlers came there. And so I have a long history of farming there in the area, and went off to school. My dad didn't really want me to come back to the farm, and farming was really tough back after I got out of college, and he wanted me to have an easier life than him. He wanted me to get a business degree and go do something else. So I spent some time off the farm working for some major companies, but always my heart was there in Jefferson County. Found a way to be able to move back home. My wife is from there as well. Her dad farmed there, and we were able to move back home and buy a farm for ourselves in the early 1990s, and I've been doing that on my own since then. But when I got back home, I realized it probably wasn't a whole lot easier then than it was for my dad when he was going through it. And I knew I needed a friend, and I needed somebody that could help me with the problems that I was having on my farm and fix things from a regulatory or legislative standpoint. And I realized that staying behind the fences on my farm wasn't going to solve those problems, that I had to get outside my fence rows and get involved with somebody that could help me. And that's Farm Bureau. That's what they were set up to do. In the 1920s, in the heart of the Depression and after World War I and a pandemic, the Spanish flu, the Farm Bureau grew up all over the United States to work on behalf of the farmers, to solve problems, to help farmers and people that live in rural areas have a better living and make a better life. So I started my association with them in the early 90s, and through that process moved up to county president and then on the state board of directors. And 7 years ago, I had the great opportunity to be elected by my peers around the state to be Farm Bureau president, and get the chance to work every day here in Jackson with the legislature here in Washington, D.C., and across all the business entities that we work for on behalf of our members. It's just been a wonderful experience to me that God has given me. It's truly been a path that he put on my plate that for me to be here with you today and be the Farm Bureau president.
Well, congratulate you for that and for your dedication to helping farmers in the state. You know, when you think about industry, people have a tendency to want to think about Ingalls, for example. Very big employer, very important employer. One of the important bookends here in coastal Mississippi, and one of the most important industries in the state of Mississippi. But they don't tend to think of farming at the level that it is. I mean, it's the top industry in the state of Mississippi, billions of dollars associated with it. And one of the great opportunities for me over the past 30 years, getting to go to the Mississippi Delta, spend time there, you know, really understanding the rich history of that alluvial soil there. Certainly farming takes place outside of the Delta, but for me, the education was going to the Delta and learning. And then I leased a lot of land. I leased several thousand acres from farmers there. Chris Killebrew is the farmer on our main property, and then the Dunn family out of Greenwood is very, very close friends. Dwight and Travis and his brother, just terrific family. But I get a chance to see through their eyes that it's tough. It's tough being a farmer, and you live by the weather, you live by the changes in the markets, the tariff situation and watching that and how it affected farm. I mean, it is a multifaceted, multi-dimensional situation, and it's not easy. But man, we are lucky though in this state to have so many dedicated farmers that are sort of setting the stage for Mississippi as in this major industry, aren't we?
Absolutely, and those people that you mentioned, the Killebrews, are great members of mine on the board, and actually in Holmes County. I think he farms up closer to Greenwood maybe, but they're members of ours, and we work on their behalf. There's a lot of great agriculture in the Mississippi Delta, and when you're looking at row crops such as corn or cotton or soybeans, a lot of that production happens in the Mississippi Delta. But I think something that you would be curious to know is the top 2 agricultural crops here in the state are grown outside the Mississippi Delta. Our top 2 commodities are poultry, and that's by far the biggest industry here in the state from a commodity standpoint, and then forestry. So a lot of that happens down in your part of the world, out along the Gulf Coast, just a county or 2 up. You get in a lot of the poultry industry up there. So agriculture is almost an $8 billion a year, contributes to the economy of the state. And we contribute about somewhere between 25 and 30% of the total workforce in some way touches agriculture in the state. So we've got a big footprint. When I talk to the legislature about our needs, such as infrastructure needs, roads and bridges, we need more money for those in the rural parts of the state and our local counties, and that's important to our farmers to have that support.
Well, look, we're visiting with Mike McCormick, who's the president of the Mississippi Farm Bureau Federation. And when we come back, we'll continue the conversation. There's so much more to talk about. We'll see you after this break.
Coast Vue on SuperTalk 103.1 is brought to you by J. Allen Toyota on I-10 exit 38 Gulfport. See all the incredible inventory at allentoyota.com. And remember, when you think Toyota, think J. Allen Toyota.
Hey, South Mississippi, it's Jay Allen at Jay Allen Toyota, and I got something new for you for 2021. It's the Jay Allen Certified Collection. What that means is we selected our very best inventory with under 75,000 miles, and they're 6 years old or newer. That comes with a multi-point inspection, a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty, and a 3-day buyback guarantee. So come check out the Jay Allen Certified Pre-Owned Collection right here at I-10 exit 38 in Gulfport or on allentoyota.com.
If Alexa's part of your life, you've got one more way to access SuperTalk. SuperTalk Mississippi is now available on Amazon Alexa devices. Once enabled, just say, Alexa, play SuperTalk Mississippi at any time and start listening. It's that easy. Just one more way to stay informed and connected with your state. Learn more at supertalk.fm/Alexa. SuperTalk Mississippi. SuperTalk Mississippi. Now available on Amazon Alexa devices.
When COVID started, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply began stocking hard-to-find PPE items. When Amazon and other mega internet companies were out of stock or inflating prices, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply was providing local schools and businesses vital PPE supplies at fair prices. When your office needs PPE supplies, office furniture, or products to keep your business operating, consider Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply. We sell that too. Buy local.
Thousands of Bulldog fans have subscribed to the Thunder and Lightning podcast. Have you? On each episode, Brian Haydad and Joel Coleman give you an inside look at your Mississippi State Bulldogs. The Thunder and Lightning podcast is free and available on demand at supertalk.fm and on your smartphone. Just search for Thunder and Lightning on iTunes, Google Play, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Thunder and Lightning from SuperTalk Mississippi, covering the Bulldogs like no one else. SuperTalk Mississippi.
From outer space, visitors from another world. We've had contact with bug-eyed monsters.
This is actually a flying saucer.
Flying saucer?
I'm from another planet.
Where late nights are kind of weird.
Well, they must have a reason for their visits.
The unexplained, the weird, and the downright creepy. Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. Late nights. SuperTalk Mississippi. Feeling down? Here's your prescription for a daily dose of good news and positive vibes. Good Things with Rebecca Turner. Every afternoon, Rebecca highlights all the good things happening right here in the state you call home. Daily exposure to Good Things with Rebecca Turner may cause smiling, feelings of positivity, happiness, and even laughter. When you experience these symptoms, tell your friends to listen.
Okay.
Weekdays starting at 2 p.m. here on SuperTalk Mississippi and now on Amazon Alexa devices. Talking to the people that help make the coast such a unique place to live. This is Coast Vue with Ricky Mathews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. If there's an industry in this state, and this includes the Mississippi Gulf Coast, if there's an industry in this state that is king, it's farming. And farming reaches across a wide spectrum of commodities, as Mike McCormick, the president of the Mississippi Farm Bureau Federation, just said before we went to break. But, they do educational programs, safety programs. They're really focused on so many aspects of what can make a farmer's life manageable. I guess it's because there's so many things coming at farmers these days. But hey, before we go back to, the conversation is, to pick up where we left off, I just wanted to mention, the Farm Bureau has had a long association with SuperTalk, and as an extension to that, you got to know JT Williamson really well over all those years. And unfortunately, we've all had to sort of deal with the aftermath of JT's passing, but there was really no one in this state more dedicated and passionate about this state than JT. What would you say about JT, Mike?
It was just heartbreaking to lose JT. We lost such a supporter. He was always there for us anytime we needed to tell the story for our farmers, our people in the rural areas. He was just one of us. He was one of a kind and great-hearted person, with always with his heart in the right place. And we hate to lose him. I know that there'll be others that'll come along and do a great job, but JT was just really special to us here at Farm Bureau.
Yeah, JT had a very unique approach to talking to the average guy. I mean, he could help you understand why this issue over here should be important to you. And people liked that. They liked his sort of country approach, his practical approach, his incredible passion. And man, he loved what he did. I mean, even as he fought cancer, to have him regularly come onto the show and talk about what he wanted to do to use his situation to improve other people's situation who were in his situation. I mean, he never, to the end, I mean, he never missed an opportunity to try to make this world a better place. And man, he lived that mission. And it seemed appropriate, frankly, that JT would have such a great relationship with the Farm Bureau. I appreciate those kind words, and I know, I can't tell you how much I agree with what you said.
He just always brought such a positive approach. And the last time I talked to him was by telephone, and one of his close friends here in my office that works with me, he said, "Hey, you tell Henry that I'm going to be back soon. I'm going to beat this. I got this, and I'm going to be back there in the Farm Bureau office." So we miss him, and our prayers are still with his family, and just what a great guy.
Well, okay, so let's come back to the Farm Bureau now. So when people think about the Farm Bureau, they immediately think about insurance. So tell the relationship between the insurance company and the Farm Bureau Federation.
So in the 1920s, when we set up Farm Bureau, it was for the mission to carry the legislative burden for our farmers, both here in Mississippi and in Washington, but to also solve problems for farmers and people that lived in rural areas. And in the 1940s, the leadership at the time, not just here in Mississippi, but all over the United States, they were hearing from their members that we can't get insurance in rural areas of our state. So the Farm Bureaus independently, each state is an independent operation, started forming their own insurance companies at a time when they were pretty unique. They were the only ones out there willing to step out on the line and work with people that live in rural areas. In the 1940s, that took place. We're very fortunate, Ricky, that the leadership of a lot of the southern states met at the Peabody Hotel in Memphis, Tennessee, and decided that they would form these companies all over the South. And when they popped a line on the map, it was presidents of the federations from Texas to North Carolina. They felt like that Jackson, Mississippi was centrally located in that, and they actually built the home offices, that the umbrella operations for 6 states that do property and casualty business and 10 states that do life insurance business. So we have a big footprint here. We employ somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 employees or independent contractors throughout the state here for the insurance company. Things changed after Hurricane Katrina. Y'all know about Hurricane Katrina. We were hit pretty hard with that storm along the Mississippi Gulf Coast, and it really changed our insurance operation. We had a mutual company before then. Now we're a wholly owned subsidiary of the parent company, which means that my role in that is I'm on the board of directors, but it's not what I do on a daily basis. We have insurance people that run that. So I'm very proud that our forefathers had the idea that this was a good thing to do, and it's turned out to be a good thing for Mississippi. We do well here, and I think people like Farm Bureau because they know we take care of our members and we take care of our commitment. If we make a promise, we'll stay behind it.
Well, I mentioned to you, you didn't know this before we talked today, but I literally wrote my membership check this morning for my membership in the Farm Bureau Federation. And then also the insurance side of things. We have a family hunting camp, and so our insurance is actually through the Farm Bureau Insurance Company. So
I appreciate that. And the membership is you're a member of the Federation, and the insurance is just a member benefit, like we have other things that are member benefits as well. So if you're wondering why you have to pay a membership to get Farm Bureau insurance, that's why. It's still the same thing that we set up in the 1920s. That's the nonprofit side of things. The insurance company is a for-profit. They're totally separate the way that they're set up. But you are a member. You don't have to be have insurance with Farm Bureau to be a member, but to be in our insurance company, you do have to be a member. So we appreciate.
I'm a proud member.
Thank you.
So look, let's come back. Last week was National Farm and Safety Week. That's important for a lot of reasons, but talk about why in this moment it's important to focus on that.
Well, I think farming is one of the most dangerous occupations out there. Some of the calls that I really hate getting is when one of our members have been in an accident. We get it more often than I would like to get those calls from a wife or family member to say, just want you to know that this happened. So the Farm Bureau works on behalf of our farmers, and educational things that we can do are some of the most important aspects of my job. Some of the things that we do are policy related, and you can't really wrap your hands around it. But if you present a program somewhere and it saves somebody's life, then that's something that you can take home and say, hey, we really made an impact in the world today. We do have a good many different programs that we do. We have some discounts on some safety seats for your vehicle, but one of the most important things that we picked up on a number of years ago was how dangerous it is for farmers to work inside of grain bins. So when we harvest our crop, we put them in storage inside of a grain bin. You have to get in there from time to time. Things get clogged up as you're taking the grain back out of those, but it's a very, very, very dangerous place to be. It's almost like working in quicksand, and once you become entrapped in the grain, it actually starts sucking you down. And we were having tragedies of people dying in grain bin all around the state, all around the U.S. So we started a grain bin safety program. We've got a simulator here. We go out to farms and put on the presentation there. But more importantly, we put on the presentation for the emergency management people that work in the counties to show them the proper way, because it's almost backwards from what you think of how you would get somebody out of that. So I think over the last 3 or 4 years, I know of 12 lives that we've saved through those direct programs of those type of training. And that's just really special to be able to be part of that process.
What's really interesting, looking at it again through the eyes of the farmers that I know, that the equipment's come a long way. The equipment they use today has so many safety features on it. I mean, they're computer machines now. They're GPS driven and all that. So we've really advanced in that respect. I remember actually when I was working at the Sun Herald, I went to Minnesota for some training. And while I was there, there was actually a grain bin accident, and I was assigned to the reporter that was covering that. And man, it was just so tragic to understand how something seemingly so simple, so basic, turned deadly so rapidly, and they couldn't reverse it. And I understand why you pointed that out, because after having been impacted by that, obviously I've never been involved in anything to do with a grain bin, but I came to understand how incredibly dangerous it was.
It's bad, and I think there's some things that can be done to prevent those tragedies, and we've done a really good job of training people around our state and even the Southeast with our program. I have 2 people on staff that's all they do every day is safety educational work in the schools, this grain bin program and other things. And then we put out a lot of information through SuperTalk and radio and even over the digital means of just giving people the putting it in their heads that farming is a really dangerous occupation. And you were talking about the machines. They are so much more advanced now, but they're so much bigger. So the person driving a tractor down the road or a combine or a sprayer probably can't see you very well coming up from behind them. And we're in an age of distracting driving. So where people are texting and driving a lot, the tractors and the slow moving vehicles, if they're marked, they have the right of way on the road, and they're only going 18 to 20 miles an hour, maybe even slower, and you can have a really bad accident. And those are the tragic ones that I get the call on of tractors or somebody on a piece of equipment that's been hit from behind from a car that never saw them, that hit them full steam on behind. So we're working hard to keep educate and say don't text and drive, give our farmers a break. They want to go home and do their job and go home to their families every night. So I'm proud of the work that we do on farm safety.
Well, Mike McCormick, president of Mississippi Farm Bureau, it's been a pleasure to meet you. I look forward to having you back on. We'll have you on my SuperTalk outdoor show at some point. Until then, have a great time and a great weekend, and we'll see you later.
Thank you, Rick.
You bet. We'll have Jeff Duncan when we come back.
Listen live or on demand and watch episodes of Coast Vue on your laptop, desktop, or on your phone or tablet by going to SuperTalkMSGulfCoast.com.
Feeling down? Here's your prescription for a daily dose of good news and positive vibes. Good Things with Rebecca Turner. Every afternoon, Rebecca highlights all the good things happening right here in the state you call home. Daily exposure to Good Things with Rebecca Turner may cause smiling, feelings of positivity, happiness, and even laughter. When you experience these symptoms, tell your friends to listen.
Okay.
Weekdays starting at 2 p.m. here on SuperTalk Mississippi and now on Amazon Alexa devices.
Hey, South Mississippi, the future has arrived. It's 2021, and at J. Allen Toyota, we're here to serve you. Want to let you know that we have Allen's lifetime warranty on every new Toyota we sell. That also comes with Toyota Care. That's 2 years and 25,000 miles of complimentary maintenance. We have a great rental department. Our service department's ready to take care of your current vehicle. We're rolling out J. Allen certified pre-owned for 2021. You got to come to I-10 exit 38 right here in Gulfport. You're going to love what we have to offer. When you think Toyota, think Allen Toyota.
Get the scoop on what happened in college football and what to expect in the NFL. Each Sunday on Sports Sunday with Michael Borky. Get the story behind the stats, 8 to 10 a.m. on SuperTalk Mississippi, supertalk.fm, and watch the show on supertalk.tv. SuperTalk Mississippi. We're more than just words. This is where the story of your state is told. Proud to cover the Magnolia State like nobody else. SuperTalk Mississippi. SuperTalk.fm has a new look and is more informative than ever with expanded Mississippi news coverage, the latest Mississippi weather, Mississippi sports, and of course, the talk that's important to you. Every show, every podcast, and every late-breaking story. Constantly updating the news the second new developments happen. All in one place. The new SuperTalk.fm. SuperTalk Mississippi.
From outer space, visitors from another world. We've had contact with bug-eyed monsters.
This is actually a flying saucer.
Flying saucer?
I'm from another planet.
Where late nights are kind of weird.
Well, they must have a reason for their visit.
The unexplained, the weird, and the downright creepy. Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. Late nights. SuperTalk Mississippi.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. talking to Paul Thorne, Mississippi true treasure, really incredible recording artist, singer, songwriter. Has been doing it a long time, doing it the right way.
It's almost like a Forrest Gump thing because, I was a boxer, / I worked in a furniture factory, / I had a gig 2 nights a week playing my acoustic guitar in a pizza restaurant, / I was in the National Guard. And,
wow.
All this stuff was going on at the same time. / I had a writing contract with Rick Hall and Fame.
In a Mississippi Minute. Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi, the SuperTalk Mississippi app, and now available on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher.
SuperTalk Mississippi. Just seems to me people have so much invested in not telling the truth when you want the truth, simply because it might hurt some feelings, and nothing but the truth. Lose some subscribers. You want the Gallo Radio Show. I just think in this audience you still believe that if you tell the truth you come out ahead. The Gallo Radio Show. And if you tell yourself otherwise, you're lying to yourself. Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi.
And now, it's Coast Vue with Ricky Mathews. Brought to you by J. Allen Toyota and AGJ Systems and Networks on Super Talk 103.1 FM.
Welcome back to Coast View. Thank you for joining us. As always the case on Fridays, I have my friend Jeff Duncan, a columnist and writer for NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune, somebody I admire personally and professionally, and it's Saints Day here on Coast View. First of all, let me just say, how you doing, Jeff?
Ricky, I'm doing great, man. Great to be back home. The Saints are back home for the first time in a month, and we're slowly but surely kind of getting back to normal here in New Orleans.
It's good to see you. I noticed, I think NOLA.com put a series of like social media comments that different players had done. Some playing with their dogs that they hadn't seen for a month, and others just glad to be back in the city. You forget, man. I mean, look. Let's say any of us, if we were just suddenly just have to get on an airplane and fly to Dallas, not to return for 30 days. Think about that for a minute. It's not like this is all in advance of the storm. It's not like they had days to prepare for this. They just loaded up and left and didn't come back for 30 days. That's a pretty shocking set of circumstances. And given kind of what they had to deal with coming back 2-1, that's not a bad place to be in, is it?
No, I think it's about as good as you could expect. And I think sometimes we're all guilty of that, Ricky, that looking at these NFL athletes or just professional athletes, celebrities, entertainers in general, as if they're not human beings. Sometimes we forget there's a little bit of a distance when we see them on the screen. And I can remember talking to some Saints executives in the days before they were getting ready to evacuate, and one of the biggest issues players had was their pets. I mean, it's no different than you and I. I mean, people had to find ways to get their pets taken care of. Some players couldn't find help, and they had to jump in a car just like you and me and roll 7-8 hours to Dallas because they couldn't find someone to sit their dogs and take care of them. And then once you mentioned it as well, they got over there expecting to be there maybe 3 or 4 days, and they ended up there for 4 weeks. They were not prepared for their clothes, all the other things you have in your life. So yes, there's some stress involved with all that. And so I'm sure those guys were ecstatic to get back in their own beds this past week.
Well, you said the last time we talked, of course, we go to Green Bay. It's right in the wake of the storm. The team is focused. The team did a great job of deciding that they need to play the game in Jacksonville because it's hard for fans to get there from Green Bay. Besides, the team, especially Aaron Rodgers, didn't tend to play well there. So all that science and looking at the experience that they had after Katrina and all that they learned from that, man, it was just an absolutely incredible performance. But you also said that it would be hard for them to stay at that peak, to come in that next game and have a big letdown game. It really didn't surprise you. But then again, you said that when they go to play New England, that that they'll recover most likely. And you've been kind of right every step of the way. You have a sense of this because you sort of followed them after Katrina. You know the situation, and they rose to the occasion for the most part. I mean, it was a terrible letdown game, but their performance this past weekend, as you've already written, is a real look into the formula that they're going to have. It's a little bit boring to me, I might add. It's boring, and Jameis scares me to death still. But still, it's their formula. It's what they're going to do, isn't it?
Yeah, this team's, I think, built to win like those old Jim Mora Saints teams did on defense. Efficient offense, strong special teams with Morton Anderson back then. That's how those Saints teams won. And Sean Payton spoke to us this week, and he said, hey, it doesn't have to be aesthetically pleasing. We're in the winning business. That's what matters. He said when he gets on the post-game bus to ride to the airport, he doesn't even think about how many passing yards they had. It's all about what keys to victory they accomplished in that given game. And he was quick to point out, Ricky, last week, this formula that worked for this game is not going to be the same formula that works for the next week's game. And they come up with a different recipe for success with each given opponent. And it's going to change week to week. So, we don't know. This week, they might come out and throw it for 400 yards. I'm not saying they will, but I don't think yet we've determined exactly their full identity. But we know, as we've talked about on your program a bunch of times, this defense is special, and I think it's only going to continue to get better as the season goes.
Wow, it was really good. It was good to see the defense play their hearts out. It was good to see Marshawn Lattimore come in, even with some limitations because of the surgery. It was great just to see that team. Malcolm Jenkins gets a pick six. I mean, you couldn't have scripted it any better. I mean, it was just everything you needed to happen from a defensive point of view for the most part. It happened. And even to the extent, and I think I want to just say once again that if people haven't gotten the Saints NOLA.com TimesPicayune newsletter, sign up for it. It's terrific. Comes out daily, and it gives you the sense that this team, the journalists that surround that team from NOLA.com and the TimesPicayune, they're the best in the industry, and they are on top of it. But you guys have analyzed every aspect of that game, including how they saw that weakness that was going to enable Taysom Hill. I was starting to say James, enable Taysom Hill to run like he did in that last set of downs. It was a special thing in terms of finding the weaknesses and taking advantage of them, wasn't it?
Yeah, here's the thing, Ricky. This is why I had such confidence. I don't know for sure that they were going to dominate the Patriots the way they did. That was a little surprising to me, but I knew the Saints were going to play better than they did in week 2. That was a given. That was an outlier performance. I think Carolina is much better than everybody thought, and I think the Saints kind of laid an egg in that game with some extenuating circumstances. But there's no person in this business that Sean Payton respects more than Bill Belichick, and I knew he was going to have every T crossed, every I dotted in his game plan for that week. He was not going to let his team play poorly because of the respect level he has for Bill Belichick, what he's accomplished up there. So I knew the Saints would be prepared, and they certainly were. You can sense the energy. I was on the field before the game, and the players were dancing. They were chanting. There was definite motivation after what had happened in week 2. So you just knew they were going to play better, and I thought their preparation and their game plan was spot on. And they exposed some weaknesses in the Patriots' defensive game plan. And I think the Patriots are in for another long season. I mean, they're transitioning to a rookie quarterback, and I knew the Saints' defense would give him a lot of problems. He hadn't faced a defense as good as the Saints in his first 2 games, and we saw what happened. 3 interceptions really kind of changed the game.
Well, it's interesting, though, Jeff. I don't care what profession you're in, whether you're doing a show like Coast Vue, whether you're writing a column for NOLA.com or TimesPicayune, whether you're out on that field playing. Preparation's what makes you better. You got to be focused on excellence. So the reason that they came out on that field and they were excited and motivated, and you could see the motivation in them, is because they're prepared. They had it hammered in them. You said this was going to be a chess match between those two guys. And as a guy who's covered the Saints are all these years. It's got to be. Do you view that game different than you would your typical game, knowing the kind of minds that are? You got Belichick on one side and Sean Payton on the other. Does it change the way you watch the game?
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, Sean Payton coached that game differently than he would a lot of other games, just because of the respect he has for Belichick. And I think there's a little bit. And I tweeted out a bunch of things on social media about the Saints passing numbers being down and the fact that they've won both their games this year with Jameis Winston passing for less than 150 yards in each win. Ricky, in 15 years under Drew Brees, that only happened twice. In 15 years, it's already happened twice this year. So the Saints are playing conservative, but that's also circumstantial. The Saints got big leads against both New England and Green Bay, two very respected opponents. And when you get those 17-3, 21-3 leads, you're basically just managing the lead at that point. And that's what Jameis Winston did. He didn't try to put the ball in harm's way. He took some sacks he might not have in other situations, but he did what he was being coached to do, and it worked. And so I think as everyone has kind of broken down every little stat with Jameis Winston, we need to just kind of recognize it's still a small body of work, and the circumstances in those games kind of dictated how he performed.
So let me ask you this. Okay, because I said at the beginning that he makes me nervous. Jameis Winston still makes me nervous. During the couple of preseason games that we had, he looked great. He looked sharp. And that one game in particular really, really looked sharp. He seemed a little bit more relaxed or whatever. What I noticed, and I'd be interested to hear what people are saying about this, but what I notice is it possible that I know that with the exception of that one touchdown where he was falling and he shouldn't have thrown the ball, but he did, and it turned out fine, but it might not have turned out so fine. With the exception of that, he tends to be, what I'm observing is reluctant. He just seems reluctant. Whereas football needs to be a little more spontaneous. Certainly you got to be trained and well prepared, but then you got to go out there and sort of let your instincts go. And I don't sense that that's happening. But let's do this. We're going to go to break. We'll come back on the other side, and I want to get your thoughts on what the scuttlebutt is around Jameis Winston. We'll see you after this with Jeff Duncan.
You can also listen live to SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1 on your Amazon Alexa devices. Once you've enabled the skill, just say, Alexa, open SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast.
SuperTalk.fm has a new look and is more informative than ever with expanded Mississippi news coverage, the latest Mississippi weather, Mississippi sports, and of course, the talk that's important to you. Every show, every podcast, and every late-breaking story. Constantly updating the news the second new developments happen. All in one place. The new SuperTalk.fm.
Hey, South Mississippi, it's Jay Allen at Jay Allen Toyota, and I got something new for you for 2021. It's the Jay Allen Certified Collection. What that means is we selected our very best inventory with under 75,000 miles, and they're 6 years old or newer. That comes with a multi-point inspection, a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty, and a 3-day buyback guarantee. So come check out the Jay Allen Certified Pre-Owned Collection right here at I-10 Exit 38 in Gulfport or on allentoyota.com.
When COVID started, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply began stocking hard-to-find PPE items. When Amazon and other mega internet companies were out of stock or inflating prices, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply was providing local schools and businesses vital PPE supplies at fair prices. When your office needs PPE supplies, office furniture, or products to keep your business operating, consider Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply. We sell that too. Buy local.
SuperTalk Mississippi, your new home for the Ben Shapiro Show.
We don't hold back. We never shy away from telling you the truth.
The most electrifying national talk show on air today.
We have the most important guests and the biggest thinkers in America.
Ben Shapiro, brutally breaking down the issues of the day.
From politics to pop culture, we take a look at all of it. So don't miss out.
Weeknights at 9.
For something new and unique in talk radio, take a listen to The Ben Shapiro Show.
On SuperTalk Mississippi. SuperTalk Mississippi.
Just seems to me people have so much invested in not telling the truth.
When you want the truth.
Simply because it might hurt some feelings.
And nothing but the truth.
Lose some subscribers.
You want the Gallo Radio Show.
I just think in this audience, you still believe that if you tell the truth, you come out ahead.
The Gallo Radio Show.
And if you tell yourself otherwise, you're lying to yourself.
Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi. Thousands of Bulldog fans have subscribed to the Thunder and Lightning podcast. Have you? On each episode, Brian Haydad and Joel Coleman give you an inside look at your Mississippi State Bulldogs. The Thunder and Lightning podcast is free and available on demand at supertalk.fm and on your smartphone. Just search for Thunder and Lightning on iTunes, Google Play, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Thunder and Lightning from SuperTalk Mississippi, covering the Bulldogs like no one else.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. We're talking to Dale Berra. Take me back to growing up and what it was like in the household with a dad like Yogi Berra.
You know, we grew up with his funny sayings. You know, I remember Dad managing the Mets, and me, Larry, and Timmy are watching the game on TV. And all of a sudden, two streakers run out of the stands on TV, and the camera flips away from them. So when he gets home, me, Larry, and Timmy say, "Hey, Dad, those streakers, what were they, boys or girls? We need to know." And Dad looked us right in the eye and said, "I couldn't tell. They had bags over their heads."
In a Mississippi Minute. Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi, the SuperTalk Mississippi app, and now available on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher.
Talking to the people that help make the coast such a unique place to live. This is Coast Vue with Ricky Mathews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. It's Saints Friday here with Jeff Duncan from NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. When we went to break, I was asking Jeff about Jameis Winston. Had they put a muffle on him too much? Is he sure of himself? He seems hesitant. I guess that's the word I would use. What's your read on that?
I think it's a good question. I think it's a fair question, but I also think we don't really know the answer, Ricky. I mean, like I said, the circumstances in these games were so extraordinary, where the Saints had such big leads against quality opponents that I think the marching orders changed to suddenly let's deviate from the game plan we had coming in. And here's the new game plan. That is, don't mess up. Don't give anything easy to the opponent. And that is what was the recipe for success in those games. Once Malcolm Jenkins had that pick six to start the second half, you've got a 3-score lead on the New England Patriots in New England, a team that's got the best winning record in the league at home in the last 12 years. So you just want to get out of there with a win. Stocking the passing numbers at that point was not important. So I think we're going to find out more as we get into some more regular games. But these first two games, the Saints have gotten up so quickly that I think those circumstances dictated how the game was called and how Jameis Winston played and how he was coached by Sean Payton.
So let's go back one more I think fine point on this that really gets to the maturation or lack of maturation of Jameis Winston, and that is that for 2 years now he's been very focused on learning a new system, getting his PhD in offense with the Saints under Sean Payton, understanding progressions and understanding how to protect the ball, all those things. Because, let's face it, his last couple of years in Tampa were a disaster, at least from a turnover point of view. And so he comes to the Saints, and he's been in this system, and he talks about it really well and whatever. But again, we haven't had you say the body of work. We've got three games to look at, and we don't have enough evidence yet. But it makes you wonder whether he's really internalized and truly been reprogrammed, or whether he's consciously just trying not to turn the ball over. I don't know what the answer to that is. But again, I'm not asking you to tell me. You've made your comment about that. I think we just need to see more evidence, and then we'll see where this goes. It is cool to see that Taysom Hill, he readily admits he was disappointed about not getting the top role, but he was in the offense more than 50% of the time this past week, and he's playing special teams. They're starting to get him into that. It's great to see his leadership on the team, isn't it?
Yeah, and he's kind of embraced it. He just wants to win. I mean, at heart, he's a football player, not just a quarterback, and he's probably the Saints' best short yardage running back. He's got such power. And that worked against the Patriots. The Patriots are going to struggle this year, I think, to stop the run. I think the Saints knew that going in. The offensive line played extremely well. They lost Teron Armstead early on, and James Hurst came in and replaced him. They were playing without Eric McCoy again, and you had Calvin Throckmorton, a former undrafted rookie, starting up there, and they really dominated the Patriots up front and used those big, heavy jumbo packages with Taysom Hill at quarterback to their advantage, and really that drive was masterful, the decisive drive that put that game away. When you can do that at the NFL level, Ricky, just run the ball down somebody's throat like that, that doesn't happen very often, and was very impressive.
Well, you talked about the number ones at the beginning of the season. We have, our team is strong. You look across, had a couple places we need to shore up, like in defensive backs, for example. You're worried, though, that the depth may not be there. So if we started to get some injuries, like on the offensive line, for example, like we've gotten, you were not sure. You're not sure about how that's going to look. You weren't sure if we got some injuries on the defensive line, which was a strength, how that was going to look. What's your take on that now?
Well, I think it's better than I thought it was a month ago, no doubt. I mean, those guys like Calvin Throckmorton have stepped up. They're unproven at the NFL level, so we didn't know how they would respond. Who knew that Paulson Adebo would start a corner, a third-round draft pick, and didn't even play football last year, and be as good as he's been so far? He's kind of held off Bradley Roby so far in the starting lineup. I don't know how long that's going to last, but for now, he's played well enough to where Sean Payton said it, Ricky, cornerback went from being a weakness to now I think it's a strength on this team with the additions of Bradley Roby and Desmond Trufant, the emergence of Paulson Adebo, and of course Marshawn Lattimore. You've got four solid cornerbacks that you can rely on. And look around the league. Everyone's trying to find a cornerback right now. Carolina just traded for one down in Jacksonville. Tampa Bay just signed Richard Sherman. So I think the Saints have done a tremendous job in their personnel department of bolstering some of these weak spots.
So we got less than a minute left. What you looking forward to this Sunday?
I'm looking forward to seeing the home field advantage for the first time in over 635 days in the Superdome. Saints have probably had to wait longer than anybody else to have a full crowd in their home venue. It's going to be electric in there on Sunday, and I think the Saints are going to win this one going away. They're playing a really struggling Giants team that hasn't won a game all season.
And it's going to feel a little bit like the Superdome in 2006 when the Saints came back after the dome was renovated. What a great game that was. I was there. How exciting. So anyway, thank you, my friend. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you, Ricky. We'll talk about another big win next week.
Have a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday.
Follow SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1 on Facebook. Facebook.com/SuperTalk MS Coast 103.1.